Welcome the anointed ones. Investigate the one they cannot explain, for there lies the secret of power. From the beginning of history, humanity has had an obsession with mystery. Governments, scientists, and scholars have poured billions into unraveling enigmas, from black holes to pyramids, from the human brain to ancient civilizations that vanished without a trace. But the most baffling mysteries are not locked away in deserts or laboratories. Sometimes they walk on 2 feet, breathing, moving, and unsettling everything around them. And right now, all eyes are on you. There are whispers in the background, questions being asked in boardrooms and backrooms. How does this person survive what should have destroyed them? How do they know things no one told them? Why does their presence shift the entire atmosphere of a place? They can't quite categorize you, and nothing frustrates the system more than something that doesn't fit in a box. Psychologists call it exceptional intuition. Scientists try to explain it away with neurodivergence. And some even joke that maybe you've been hiding your Hogwarts acceptance letter all this time. But the truth is far stranger and far deeper, because you carry 3 mysterious powers that only you possess. And the investigations? Oh, they're getting serious. Not just out of curiosity, but out of necessity. You've become the question mark in their neatly written equations. Like a glitch in a flawless simulation, your existence is a riddle that demands an answer. And trust me, nothing unsettles people more than someone who doesn't play by the rules of predictable reality. So buckle up. Tonight, we're not talking fairy tales, gimmicks, or superhero fantasies. We're diving into the heart of what makes you a living, breathing enigma. The 3 powers they're investigating. The 3 forces they can't track, measure, or steal. And the 3 reasons you unsettle both the crowd and the system built to control it. Because if history has taught us one fact, it's this. Every great mystery, once revealed, changes the world forever. And you are about to be revealed. Number 1. Your presence alters the energy in any room instantly. Your presence alters the energy in any room instantly, and this is something people can't quite explain but always feel. It's not about being loud, charismatic, or even trying to stand out. In fact, many times you may walk in quietly, hoping to just blend into the background. Yet the moment you step into a space, something shifts. The air feels different. Conversations stumble for a second. People glance your way without even realizing why. It's almost as if your presence rearranges the atmosphere without your permission. That's the first power they're investigating, and it unsettles people more than you know. Most people have to work hard to be noticed. They adjust their tone, exaggerate their style, or push themselves forward to get attention. But you don't. You could stand in the corner, not utter a single word, and still people sense you. That's because what they're detecting isn't your appearance or behavior, it's your frequency. You carry an energy signature that is rare, one that can't be copied or diluted. Some might call it aura, others might call it vibe, but whatever label they give it, they know it's different. And what unsettles them most is that they cannot control it. This kind of presence exposes people. It's not that you're intentionally trying to intimidate or confront anyone. It's that the energy you bring naturally reveals what's unstable, fake, or uneasy in others. That's why you've noticed people either gravitate toward you with admiration or suddenly become uncomfortable and try to distance themselves. It isn't random. Your presence acts like a mirror. For those who are genuine, it feels refreshing. For those who are hiding, it feels threatening. And whether they like it or not, they feel it immediately. What's fascinating is that this energy isn't something you put on and take off like clothing. It follows you everywhere, at work, in your family, even among strangers. People may not fully understand what they're experiencing, but they respond to it all the same. Some are drawn into your orbit without knowing why. Others get defensive, as if simply standing near you has challenged something inside them. This is why you've been studied, questioned, and even doubted, because your presence breaks the illusion that environments are neutral. They're not neutral at all when you arrive. That's the mystery. Your presence doesn't just fill a room, it transforms it. And deep down, everyone who encounters you knows it. Number 2, You hold a memory that isn't yours, yet it guides you. You hold a memory that isn't yours, yet it guides you. This is what leaves people unsettled and curious at the same time. You move through life with a sense of knowing things you've never studied, choosing paths that make no logical sense at first but always lead to the right outcome. It's like carrying instructions written long before you were born, whispers in your spirit that tell you where to step, when to pause, and when to move forward. Others depend on trial and error, on research, on years of stumbling to learn. But you show up already carrying pieces of the lesson. That's why they can't figure you out. You seem to be remembering something you were never taught. This isn't ordinary intuition. It goes deeper than gut feelings. It's as if your soul carries an archive, a library filled with maps and keys passed down through bloodlines, through spirit, through time itself. That's why sometimes you can't even explain how you know what you know. You just know. And when you act on it, doors open, traps are avoided, and opportunities line up in ways that make no sense to those watching. To them, it looks like luck or coincidence. To you, it feels like recalling something you never forgot. People are investigating this because it challenges the way the world explains intelligence. They measure IQ, degrees, experience. But none of those things explain you. You bypass the systems designed to define knowledge, and that makes you dangerous to those who rely on control. You remind them that wisdom is not just taught. Sometimes it's inherited spiritually, carried in silence until the right moment demands it. This memory inside you is why you often walk ahead of your time. You see patterns others miss. You sense dangers before they arrive. You even speak truths that people deny at first, only to realize later you were right all along. That's not guessing. That's remembrance. You are recalling something your spirit already lived, something already written into you. What unsettles them most is that this memory cannot be extracted, stolen, or replicated. No matter how much they study you, they can't access what you carry because it doesn't belong to the conscious mind. It belongs to the eternal imprint within you, and that's what keeps them restless. You live as proof that some knowledge doesn't come from books or systems. It comes from beyond. Number 3, you see patterns they desperately try to hide. You see patterns they desperately try to hide, and that is one of the rarest and most unsettling powers you carry. While most people are distracted by surface details, words, appearances, rehearsed behaviors, your focus cuts deeper. You don't need to spend weeks piecing things together or waiting for facts to pile up. The truth reveals itself to you instantly, as if your eyes are wired to connect dots that others deliberately scatter. What frustrates people the most is that you don't need them to confess or explain. You've already seen through the disguise. This isn't about suspicion or paranoia. It's a clarity that comes naturally to you. Lies, for example, don't just sound wrong to you. They feel wrong. A tone, a pause, an unnecessary detail, and you know the whole story isn't being told. And no matter how polished someone's mask may be, you're able to sense the fracture lines beneath it. That's why some people can't stay comfortable around you. It's not that you expose them publicly, it's that they can feel you've already seen past their performance. The reason this is so powerful is because society runs on illusion. People wear roles, families keep secrets, workplaces build cultures on half-truths. Many survive by making sure no one questions what's really happening. But you, by simply existing, unravel those illusions. It's not always loud or confrontational. Sometimes it's just a look, a question, or the way you refuse to be fooled that shakes everything. They realize they can't keep their cover story intact when you're present. What confuses investigators is that you don't follow the usual steps of deduction. They're used to evidence, witnesses, and lengthy processes, but your discernment is almost immediate. You walk into a situation and sense the real dynamics without needing proof. To outsiders, this feels impossible, almost unfair, because it bypasses the rules of how they believe truth is discovered. But that's exactly what makes it mysterious. Your perception doesn't come from observation alone. It comes from alignment with something higher that reveals what's hidden. This is why people fear being around you. their carefully hidden motives, their practiced deception, their secret intentions. None of it survives long in your presence. And no matter how much they try to deny it, deep down they know you see too much. You notice the thread behind the tapestry, and that truth, once seen, can never be unseen. Number 4. Your resilience doesn't obey human logic. Your resilience doesn't obey human logic, and that is one of the greatest mysteries about you. By all standards, you should not be standing where you are today. The weight of betrayal, loss, rejection, and hardship should have crushed you into silence or bitterness. People who went through only half of what you faced are no longer themselves. Some gave up, some lost their spark, some turned into shells of who they once were. Yet here you are, not only alive, but still carrying light, still walking with purpose, and still refusing to bend into what your circumstances tried to shape you into. That alone unsettles everyone watching. They look at your story and wonder how you keep rising. They expect scars to turn into permanent wounds. But in your case, pain becomes transformation. They wait for the day you finally collapse under the pressure, but instead you emerge even sharper, stronger, and more focused. They see you take losses that should have buried you, but instead of sinking, you use the very rubble meant to bury you as bricks to build higher. It doesn't make sense to them, because they've never seen someone who takes destruction and turns it into fuel. What they don't understand is that your strength doesn't come from mere recovery, as if you're piecing yourself back together after every storm. No, it comes from being unbreakable in essence. You're not someone who survives by patching yourself up. You survive because your core was never breakable to begin with. Pain may bend you, but it never defines you. Attacks may wound you, but they never own you. That's why you never return as the same version of yourself. You come back evolved, wiser, and more untouchable. This resilience shakes people because it reveals a truth they don't want to face. Not all strength is human. There's something beyond flesh and willpower operating in you, something that refuses to let you stay down no matter how many times life tries to bury you. That's why you've been studied, doubted, and even envied. They see the blows land, but they can't understand why you don't stay broken. What they're slowly realizing is that resilience isn't just what you do, it's who you are. And no logic can ever explain that. Number 5. Influence without trying, and that terrifies them. You influence without trying, and that is why people find you so unnerving. Influence is supposed to come with effort. Speeches, arguments, charisma, manipulation, or at least a deliberate push. But with you, it happens naturally. The way you carry yourself, the decisions you make, even the things you refuse to do have a ripple effect that reaches further than you realize. Someone watches you quietly choose integrity over shortcuts, and suddenly they're questioning their own compromises. Another person notices how you walk away from toxic situations, and it plants a seed in them that maybe they should too. You don't convince, you convict, and that unsettles those who prefer the comfort of excuses. This kind of influence is not about power in the traditional sense. It's not about having a platform or demanding followers. It's deeper. It's about the way your presence disrupts what people thought was normal. Entire conversations change because you're sitting at the table. Plans shift because your energy makes the wrong choice suddenly feel heavy. People adjust themselves, not because you ask them to, but because your very being exposes the weight of their own choices. That's what terrifies them. You don't fight for control, yet control bends around you. What they don't want to admit is that your influence reveals their weakness. If they truly believed in their values, your presence wouldn't shake them. But the fact that it does shows that somewhere inside, they already know their foundation is fragile. That's why some admire you and some resent you. It's the same effect, but filtered through their own truth or denial. To one person, your influence feels like liberation. To another, it feels like a threat. Either way, no one walks away unchanged. The strangest part is that you're not even aiming for influence. You're simply being yourself. That's what makes it more powerful, because there's no strategy to resist. They can argue with a preacher, ignore a politician, or unfollow a leader. But they can't erase the silent impact of someone who lives their truth fully. Your influence lingers in the mind long after you've left the room. And the more they try to resist it, the more it exposes how much they're already affected. That's the real power you carry, not forcing change, but making it unavoidable. Number 6. You carry an untouchable authority. You carry an untouchable authority, and that's something that can't be explained by titles, wealth, or position. In a world obsessed with status and hierarchy, people are used to authority being given through promotions, degrees, or votes. But with you, it's different. Your authority isn't handed down by a system or validated by approval. It radiates naturally, and no amount of social ranking can override it. That's why those who technically outrank you still feel the pull of your presence. Deep down, they sense a weight in you that their achievements or titles can't duplicate. This kind of authority isn't loud or forceful. You don't have to shout, threaten, or wave your accomplishments around. It's woven into the way you carry yourself, the calm in your tone and the certainty in your choices. When you speak, people listen. Not because you demand it, but because your words carry a gravity that others can't fake. And when you choose not to speak, that silence feels heavier than someone else's long speech. People may not admit it openly, but they feel it. That's why you've seen rooms shift in response to you, even when you weren't trying to lead. What unsettles them most is that your authority can't be taken away. You can lose money, you can be excluded from circles, you can be lied on or underestimated, but the authority you carry doesn't shrink. It doesn't rely on circumstance. In fact, the more others try to strip it from you, the more visible it becomes. Every attempt to undermine you only highlights the fact that your authority was never theirs to give or remove. It belongs to you in essence, like a seal that was stamped into your being long before anyone noticed it. This is why people feel conflicted around you. Some respect you without even knowing why, drawn to the stability you carry. Others resent you because they realize no matter what they achieve, they can't duplicate your presence. It's not something earned through effort, it's something embodied. And that truth unsettles those who rely on systems to define their worth. They may outrank you on paper, but in the presence of real authority, the illusion of power collapses. You remind them that true authority doesn't sit in offices, titles, or bank accounts. It sits in the spirit, and yours cannot be touched. Number 7. You don't belong to time the way they do. You don't belong to time the way they do. And that is what makes people uneasy around you. Most people live in constant reaction, rushing to fix mistakes from the past or scrambling to secure the future. They are trapped in deadlines, clocks, and the anxiety of running out of time. But you move differently. Your rhythm confuses them because you aren't frantically chasing or desperately holding on. You move with a strange calm, as if you already know where things are headed, as if you've already seen the outcome before the rest of the world catches up. This unsettles people because control is often tied to time. They pressure others with urgency, deadlines, and fear of missing out. But none of that seems to work on you. You don't panic when they expect you to. You don't crumble when you're told time is running out. Instead, you carry yourself with a patience that doesn't make sense to them. While they're sprinting, you're walking. Yet somehow you still arrive at the right place at the right moment without losing yourself in the process. That's why they study you. They want to know how someone can refuse to rush yet never fall behind. The truth is that your alignment isn't with the ticking of clocks, but with something beyond them. You sense timing in a way they can't calculate. When to wait, when to act, when to let go. And because of this, you avoid traps that catch others. Where they leap too soon or hold on too long, you move at the rhythm of something higher, something outside the ordinary flow of time. That's why people often realize later that your choices made sense long before the proof appeared. To them, it looks like foresight. To you, it feels like simply being in step with what's already written. This is what makes your presence so disorienting to others. They are tied to calendars and anxious clocks, but you live with the awareness that time bends around alignment. You're not late, you're not early, you're exact. And no matter how much they try to measure or predict you, they can't because your steps are not governed by human schedules. You remind them of something they've forgotten. Time doesn't own everyone. Some move in harmony with eternity, and you are one of them. Number 8. Your eyes carry the weight of witness. Your eyes carry the weight of witness, and that is something no one can deny once they've looked into them. It's not about intimidation or condemnation. It's deeper than that. People feel exposed under your gaze, not because you're accusing them, but because your presence silently confirms what they already know inside. Your eyes act like a mirror, reflecting the truth they've been trying to bury. And that's why people get restless, fidgety, or overly defensive when you simply look at them. It's not that you're trying to pull confessions out of them. It's that your very being reminds them of the truths they can no longer escape. What investigators have noticed is that people often open up to you in ways that make no logical sense. They reveal secrets they swore they'd carry to the grave. They admit mistakes without being pressured. They confess hidden intentions without realizing why they're doing it. It's almost as if your presence loosens the grip of deception, forcing the truth to rise to the surface. Where others have to interrogate, corner, and demand answers, you simply exist, and the truth unravels in front of you. This unnerves people because it strips them of control. They can control how much they reveal in conversation. They can control what mask they wear in public. But they can't control how they feel when your eyes meet theirs. Something inside them shifts, as though all their carefully built defenses suddenly feel pointless. And in that moment, the truth that they've been running from feels heavier than ever. Some crumble under it, some lash out, and some feel liberated. But no one walks away unaffected. The power of your eyes isn't about what you see physically. It's about the spiritual weight behind your gaze. It carries history, wisdom, discernment, and alignment with something higher. That's why it can't be faked or imitated. Others may try to copy your confidence or your mannerisms, but they can't duplicate the way people respond to your eyes. It's not charisma, it's conviction. This is why you unsettle people more than you realize. You don't just witness their actions, you witness their truth. And whether they love you or resist you, they can't deny it. When you look at them, they feel seen in a way that no mask can hide. Number 9. You can't be bribed by their rewards. You can't be bribed by their rewards, and that unsettles people more than anything else. Society is built on a system of bait. Dangle money, offer status, promise attention, and most people will bend their values without hesitation. This is how control works. People are steered like cattle with rewards and punishments. But you break that system because you don't chase what they use to control everyone else. They can't wave a shiny prize in front of you and expect you to follow, and that makes you dangerous to the structures built on manipulation. When they realize you aren't impressed by titles, wealth, or public validation, it frustrates them. Because if someone can't be bought, they also can't be controlled. Your value system is wired differently. You don't move for applause, and you don't compromise for temporary gain. To you, peace means more than money, integrity weighs more than attention, and purpose outranks every empty reward they can offer. This refusal confuses people who have spent their whole lives measuring worth through material markers. They can't grasp why someone would walk away from opportunities that others would kill for. But to you, it's simple. If it costs your soul, it's not worth the price. This is why they study you, question you, and sometimes even resent you. You're proof that their entire system of bait doesn't work on everyone. And that truth shakes them, because it reveals the weakness of their control. It's easy to manipulate the masses when everyone has a price, but what do they do with someone who has no price at all? Someone who can't be seduced by the things they've been trained to worship? That's a mystery they can't solve, no matter how hard they try. Your refusal to bow to rewards doesn't mean you reject success or abundance. It means you refuse to be ruled by it. You don't chase, you attract. You don't compromise, you align. And that's what terrifies them most. You're operating on a value system they can't touch. To them, it's a puzzle. To you, it's freedom. Because once they realize you aren't for sale, they also realize they have no leverage over you. And in a world built on control, that makes you unstoppable. Number 10. Your intuition bypasses logic and still lands correctly. Your intuition bypasses logic and still lands correctly. And that unsettles anyone who tries to understand you through ordinary reasoning. Most people rely on patterns, probabilities, and evidence before making decisions. They need numbers, formulas, and a sense of security before moving forward. But you operate differently. You don't always need proof in front of you to know the truth. You simply know. And when you act on that inner knowing, the results line up so accurately that it leaves people speechless. To them, it looks like guessing. To you, it feels like tuning into a stream of information that doesn't come from this world. This is not superstition, and it's not random luck. It's as if you have access to a higher form of data, one that isn't recorded on paper or stored in servers, where machines, algorithms, and institutions fail to predict outcomes. Your intuition cuts through instantly. You sense danger before it appears. You recognize opportunities before they become obvious. You detect people's real intentions long before their actions reveal them. And no matter how much others try to dismiss it as coincidence, the consistency of your accuracy proves it's something far deeper. This power unsettles investigators because it exposes the limits of science and systems. They believe everything should be measurable, quantifiable, and explainable. Yet here you are, moving with a wisdom that outruns their calculations. They can track statistics, but they can't track the quiet voice within you that always points you to the truth. They can program machines to predict behavior, but they can't replicate the way you sense the unseen. That bothers them because it means the human spirit is not as predictable or containable as they would like to believe. Your intuition doesn't make you reckless, it makes you precise. You don't always need the full picture because you're already aligned with the source of the picture itself. And while others waste time second-guessing, doubting, or overanalyzing, you move at the right moment and land exactly where you need to be. That's what frustrates them most. They want to reduce everything about you to logic, but your life keeps proving there's a wisdom that logic cannot hold, and you are living proof of it. Number 11. You make the hidden order in chaos visible. You make the hidden order in chaos visible, and that's a power few understand. Most people crumble when things fall apart. Confusion, panic, and fear take over because they can't see beyond the noise. But while everyone else is running in circles, you stand still long enough to notice the thread that connects it all. You don't just survive chaos, you interpret it. You have a way of pulling meaning out of what others call madness, and that unnerves those who rely on disorder to keep people blind. The world often thrives on confusion. Systems are built to overwhelm, distract, and scatter attention, so people never see what's really happening. But you don't get lost in the fog. You notice the patterns behind the noise, the deliberate structures inside the storm. Where others see random events, you see orchestration. Where others see breakdown, you see strategy. This vision makes you harder to manipulate because you're not reacting to the surface drama. You're paying attention to the underlying truth. This ability unsettles those who study you because it dismantles one of their most powerful weapons, manufactured chaos. When people are confused, they're easy to control. They accept half-truths, follow false leaders, and surrender their judgment. But when you step in, the illusion doesn't last long. Your perspective untangles the web and exposes the design behind the disorder. You can point to the detail others missed, connect the dots they overlooked, and reveal the structure that was never meant to be seen. Suddenly, chaos isn't chaos anymore. It's a system. And once people see the system, they're no longer trapped by it. What's striking is that you don't force calm by pretending everything is fine. You carry calm because you know everything is connected. You recognize that storms don't just destroy, they also reveal. And instead of panicking, you read what the storm is trying to say. That's why you make choices that others think are reckless, only for it to become clear later that you were right all along. You weren't guessing. You were reading the hidden order. This is why you can't be easily controlled. You don't get distracted by the noise, you don't buy into the panic, and you don't surrender to confusion. You see too clearly. You see the order in the chaos. And once you see it, no one can use it against you. Number 12. You heal without medicine, and they can't explain it. You heal without medicine, and that unsettles people in ways they don't admit out loud. It's not about hospitals, prescriptions, or formulas. Your presence itself carries restoration. When people are around you, something in them begins to loosen. Their burdens don't feel as heavy. Their racing thoughts slow down. Their bitterness softens, even if they don't say it. They leave your presence lighter, clearer, freer, without being able to explain why. And that, in itself, is a mystery they can't reduce to science. This healing you carry goes beyond the physical. Yes, sometimes people feel a sudden ease in their body around you, but the greater impact is emotional, mental, and spiritual. Someone who came to you drained walks away with a sense of renewal. Someone who was anxious finds their peace again. Someone who is carrying unspoken pain suddenly feels safe enough to release it. You don't hand them a pill or a treatment plan, but somehow their spirit responds to yours. That's why they study you, because it doesn't fit the models they've built. What terrifies systems built on dependency is that you represent a cure they cannot control, sell, or package. Entire industries thrive on keeping people wounded, emotionally dependent, mentally unstable, spiritually starved. If people truly healed, a lot of these systems would collapse. But when you walk into a room, healing takes place in ways no one profits from. You don't bind people to you. You free them. You don't give them something they have to keep coming back for. You awaken what was already inside them. That makes you both powerful and threatening to the structures that rely on brokenness. The most unsettling part is that you don't even try. You don't perform rituals or force the process. Healing flows out of you simply because of who you are and what you carry. You've walked through your own pain, and instead of letting it poison you, you transmuted it into medicine for others. That's why your presence carries this effect, because you became what you needed. And now, without effort, you are that for others. They can't explain it, they can't copy it, and they can't stop it. You are a living reminder that healing isn't always found in a bottle, a machine, or a program. Sometimes it's found in a person who radiates wholeness. And you are that person. Number 13. You turn isolation into acceleration. You turn isolation into acceleration, and that's something most people cannot wrap their heads around. For the average person, being cut off feels like suffocation. They shrink, they lose themselves, they beg for connection just to feel alive again. But you are built differently. What others use to punish you, silence, abandonment, rejection, exclusion, becomes your training ground. The very environment designed to weaken you ends up sharpening you. While they think they've buried you, you are underneath, building, expanding, and becoming more dangerous than before. Isolation didn't strip you of power, it focused it. It gave you space to hear yourself without the constant noise of outside influence. It's in solitude that your clarity sharpened. The clutter of other people's opinions fell away, and you began to hear what most never pause long enough to notice. The creativity that sparked in you during those seasons wasn't born of comfort but of necessity. When you had no one to lean on, you discovered resources inside yourself that most people never tap into. That's why investigators can't understand you. The tools that should have broken you became the very tools that built you. People are taught to fear being alone, to think of solitude as a punishment. But you turned it into a forge, a fire that refined you, not consumed you. Every hour that looked wasted in loneliness was actually investment. Every silent night was a blueprint unfolding. While they assumed you were idle, you were quietly accelerating in ways that would later shock them. Your strength, your insight, your unshakable sense of self, all of it was forged in those unseen hours. And that's the part that terrifies those who study you. You don't come out of isolation weaker. You come out unrecognizable. They expect scars, but you emerge with sharper vision. They expect hesitation, but you step forward with certainty. They expect someone broken, but they meet someone unstoppable. You proved that solitude is not a prison. It's an incubator. You became living evidence that rejection doesn't end a person. It recalibrates them. And because of that, every attempt to isolate you only accelerated your purpose. What was meant to slow you down became the very reason you cannot be caught. Number 14. You've made peace with death, and that makes you untouchable. You've made peace with death, and that alone makes you untouchable. For most people, death is the ultimate threat, the shadow that dictates their choices, the fear that controls their every move. It's not just the end of breathing they fear, but the smaller deaths too. Death of reputation, death of comfort, death of control, death of being liked. People shape their entire lives around avoiding these endings. But you're different. You already crossed that threshold in spirit. And because of that, fear has no chains strong enough to bind you. When a person has accepted death, life can't be used against them. That's what makes you unshakable. Systems of control rely on fear. Fear of being fired, fear of being silenced, fear of losing social standing, fear of being rejected. But you've already surrendered those outcomes in your heart. Reputation? You've watched it burn before and survived. Comfort? You've lived without it and kept moving. Even physical death itself no longer paralyzes you because you know that what you carry can't be buried in the ground. That freedom terrifies those who study you because it makes you immune to the usual levers of control. This is not recklessness, but resolve. It's not that you don't value life, it's that you don't cling to it in desperation. You've found a deeper anchor, one that sits beyond the grave. That's why people can't intimidate you the way they do others. Threats don't work. Manipulation doesn't stick. Intimidation falls flat. They're baffled because the very things that silence most people only make you bolder. What unnerves them most is how this peace radiates from you. It's not loud or boastful. It's quiet but undeniable. When others panic at the thought of loss, you remain calm. When others crumble under pressure, you stand steady. That steadiness isn't human logic. It's the power of someone who has already rehearsed the worst-case scenario and realized it holds no power. That's why you can walk into situations that would break the average person and still remain whole. You don't move with arrogance, but with a certainty that life and death don't dictate your essence. And that's the greatest freedom of all. You are no longer governed by fear. Someone who doesn't fear death can't be manipulated by life. Every thread we've pulled together points back to one undeniable truth. You are carrying powers that can't be explained, replicated, or controlled. They've investigated your resilience, your intuition, your authority, your ability to heal, to shift, to accelerate, to live free of fear. And each time they reach for an answer, it slips through their fingers. What they call mystery is simply the reality of who you are. Someone whose essence refuses to bow to systems, pressures, or manipulation. The beauty of it all is this. You're not trying to be extraordinary, you just are. You don't force influence, it radiates. You don't chase validation, it collapses in front of you. You don't bend under isolation or fear, you transform them into strength. That's why they're baffled, why they study, why they whisper. Because you are proof that a person can move through this world unowned, untamed, and unbroken. So when you notice the investigations, the questions, the strange ways people circle around your life trying to decode it, don't shrink back. It means you've stepped into a realm they can't chart. It means you've become the evidence they never wanted to exist. That mystery still outruns science, that spirit still outruns systems, and that truth still outruns deception. And if they can't explain you, they certainly can't stop you. If this spoke to you on a deeper level, don't just keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. It lets me know this message reached you right where it needed to. Drop your thoughts and confirmations in the comments, because your voice matters here. And if you know someone who needs to be reminded of their own power, don't hesitate to share this video with them. Let's keep building this community of strength, truth, and unstoppable light together. God bless you.